Okay, this is insane. If you can hear me over the screams of those V12s, welcome to one of the scariest and yet most exciting races I've ever had. This race will have crazy slipstream battles at ludicrous speeds, incidents of course, it's online racing after all, and random tires. Welcome to the Ride of the Valkyries, the all Aston Martin Valkyrie race at Monza Curva Grande edition. You might notice that we're starting quite far back, P21 out of 26, but that's because for some reason I've ended up in split 1. I was really happy dipping into the 127s for the first time in quali, but I feel like I don't really belong here, with the top drivers being over 2 seconds faster than me. But well, that's scared little HD talking. Let's see what we can do.
Green flag, green flag.
And we're away for one of the craziest races I've ever had, and I really do mean that. This one was special and so much fun. And I mean, just look at this race start already. This many Valkyries in one place, going down the start-finish straight together. It's just mental in terms of atmosphere. But already this first corner proves a little bit too much for some, as two cars go off to the left. By the way, I'm always gonna show you in the top right the outside perspective as well when something happens, and that's gonna be the case a lot of the time. And with all this smoke before this first proper corner, the chicane, I was taking it really careful to not get involved in any incident, and luckily survived. But let's take a look at this race start once again, because it's just amazing the atmosphere in this. And by the way, if you're enjoying this race as much as I have, please leave a like on the video, that really helps me out a lot. Just amazing in my opinion. I mean, the onboard is totally different, and I'm not quite sure if that's actually the way this car sounds from the inside. But yeah, the outside perspective is really great with those V12s screaming in your ear. And you can always hear that when like somebody overtakes you or you overtake someone, even from when you're driving it yourself. But yeah, this race start was already something, and even though I lost a couple of positions in that chicane, just because I did take it very careful, we also did gain a couple of places back, so that we are actually in the place that we started. And I can already see someone behind me is kind of looking for a move here, so I'm taking the defensive line. He seemingly outbrakes himself a little bit, and we get a good run out of Parabolica and onto the main straight. And well, this is where a lot of stuff will be happening, because it's so long and we will have slipstream battles here. A lot of them. And well, you'll see that in the coming laps. This is a 30-minute race, and it's also one where we didn't have tire warmers, something I needed to get used to. But it's not the only thing, because as you probably know if you've watched the channel for any amount of time, I am not a hypercar kind of driver. And by the way, here you can see a kind of a nice save. I did get into a little bit of a slide, and almost had a run on the guy in front, but there wasn't really any space to make a move, so I'm just gonna take it very careful. The premise for me for this race was, especially seeing that I am in top split here, I just want to survive. And so far we managed, and that's great, and I want to continue doing that. I did go into offline practice because I just haven't driven hypercars all that much, like barely at all, I would say. As by the way, you can see an incident on the right, there's a lot of smoke, and well, there's two guys parked up there, luckily off the track, so nothing happened, at least for us. For those two guys, probably over. Well, who knows, maybe they can still get going. But yeah, my goal here, as even more stuff is happening on the left, yeah, the goal is just to finish this race in one piece, and to hopefully not make any stupid mistakes, and don't spin the car, for example, have too many big lockups, because that's also not very good. I mean, hypercars are definitely a lot different to what I normally do drive, which is GT3s. They are way slower, they have ABS. So yeah, I did go into offline practice to actually get a little bit of a grip on this car, and on hypercars in general. And yeah, that hopefully has prepared me a little bit. You can see here actually kind of a nice move, going for the inside line and actually managing to overtake. I mean, the guy behind also seemingly did give me the space and maybe even the position. But nevertheless, I think that was a decent move by me. But yeah, I definitely needed the practice offline. When I started practice, I really was just locking up all the time. I was spinning the car and I really needed to get used to driving hypercars again. And well, it took quite some time, but at some point I was like, okay, if I want to still do this race this week, I gotta jump in at some point. I have seen some stuff of other people on YouTube doing this event. As by the way here, I do get a little bit of a lockup, and also someone is spinning on the left, and I was kind of getting off the throttle because I wasn't sure where he was going. So I did lose the position once again, but we do have slipstream now. And you'll see that that's actually really powerful. If you have slipstream from the guy in front of you and the guy in front of you does not have slipstream himself, then, well, for this long straight you can just pass quite easily at that. But if there are more than 2 cars involved with slipstream battles, things are gonna get very interesting. We're gonna see some of that later on. But yeah, as I was talking about, I needed to jump into this race at some point. I saw some people driving it. It looked super fun. So yeah, did go with offline practice a little bit. So I was kind of comfortable, and I was at this point in a state where I was like, I can hopefully finish this race without making too many big mistakes, like this one in front here. Did you see the tire? Like, that was kind of crazy. It was a big crash on the left. Once again, lucky that it wasn't on the track, on the racing line, so we avoided it, apart from the tire, which, by the way, gave me a penalty for safety rating at the end, and that it actually said contact with a tire or something. That was also kind of ridiculous. But yeah, I saw that this race looked really cool and fun. Also crazy, of course, but I really wanted to experience it for myself, and this is why I'm sharing this with you. It's such a fun event, and well, now you'll be able to see the multi-way slipstream battles, because I have slipstream from the car in front of me. Didn't get the best exit out of the last corner, but I also have someone behind me who has slipstream from me, and seemingly the guy in front also has some slipstream, but well, actually no. Looks like I am finally actually able to catch up here and am on the inside, so I can go for a move here, but I try to be very careful, and I do get a little bit of a lockup at the end as I turn in, and luckily managed to save the car, not hit the guy in front of me, or if even that, maybe just a little bit, but nothing happened, so we are good to continue. And everyone keeps their position. I mean, this is totally fine by me. As I said, mostly here for just the experience and hopefully getting this car in one piece to the end. We do have a little bit of damage in the front, but it's nothing major. Not even quite sure from where I did get that, but yeah, I didn't really feel that in the race, so we should not concern ourselves with that. What we should concern ourselves with is, well, we still are quite close to the guy in front, and we do also have one, may actually make that 2 Valkyries behind. Those are also fighting, by the way, so it's basically a 4-way battle at the moment, and things are going to get heated at some point, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, as I said before, super fun event, and here you can see I am, because the guy in front of me does not have slipstream, able to go alongside. He leaves me the inside for, well, this fast right-hander, which is good for me in this case. If I didn't have that much possibility to overshoot, then he would have the inside for this chicane, but I actually had a lot of extra speed to pass him very clear, and can now just, yeah, go easily through the chicane, and I am in front. But I am not in the clear, not even slightly, because I do not have slipstream now, because the next guy in front is over 4 seconds away, and the guy behind is still fairly close. I found that slipstream range here in Le Mans Ultimate is like, if you like like if you're super close or like up to 0.4, 0.5, you get pretty good slipstream. Everything above that, it's like up to like maybe 0.6, 0.7, you get a little bit, but after that it's basically not there anymore. And of course it gets weaker the farther away you are. But this is gonna play a role at some point because, well, now I am in a position where I need to pull away far enough that the guy behind me does not have slipstream coming up to this straight here. He's now 0.3 away, and take a look at the delta once we can see it again in the top left, because he's gonna catch. He's gonna catch quickly because I will not have slipstream, and you can see also my delta in the top right. Well, it's red. Yeah, here is the guy attacking me, basically reverse from last lap, but I try to still fight against it, but good move from him. He did brake a little bit later, and it works. At first, he gets a little bit of a slide at the exit of the chicane, and I'm able to go on the inside here for the first less more. That was kind of dangerous, because we also had another guy behind. Yeah, that was kind of tricky, and I maybe in the end like should have not gone for that, but I'm not quite sure. In the end it worked out, which was nice, but yeah, attacking in the last modes is kind of dangerous, I found. By the way, there's still some smoke ahead. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but at this point I'm like now 0.5, 0.6 ahead of the guy behind me. I need to pull away just a little bit more so I get out of the slipstream range, because at this point there is still some slipstream, but now if I get a good exit here out of Parabolica, then yeah, it looks like 0.8 away. At this point I should be out of his slip, or he should not get my slip anymore, and that is a good thing, because at this point I was kind of feeling confident in this race. We did survive a lot of things, and as I said before, I'm not a hypercar kind of guy. I usually just drive GT3s, and I'm very happy with that most of the time, but I really wanted to give this a shot because this race just looked fun. And let's also talk about that. The Valkyrie as the new car is a very fun one. It's not only a great sounding and great looking car in my opinion, but it's also very fun to drive, and it's not super difficult for a hypercar. I've definitely driven some hypercars that are more difficult, and one thing that also makes this easier is this is one of the hypercars, one of the only current ones that does not have a hybrid system. That means no battery management for us, and so we can't run into scenarios where our battery is full or empty, which is both not a great thing for the hypercars that you do use the battery. So we only have our V12 powering us, and that is all that we use, and we don't have to do any energy management in that regard. Of course we still have virtual energy, but that is the same for GT3s for example, so nothing major. And you can see I finally do get a clean lap here, and we are catching the guys in the front. You can see both of them, they were fighting last lap and had quite slow laps. We were like 1, maybe 2, maybe even a little bit more seconds faster, at least in this last lap. So yeah, the gap did come down over 2 seconds, I believe, and that means maybe we can get something done. But as I brake here for the chicane, I see the car in front kind of having a moment, and oh boy, that was a crazy close incident here. He basically did get it stopped right at the apex of the exit for the chicane, so that kind of threw me off, and I did take it a lot more careful seemingly than the guy behind, who has now caught back up. 0.4 behind me, which means he's in my slipstream again. And well, that, as I said before, is like the big thing here at this track. It's all about managing slipstream, because if I'm not able to pull away here, I will have the problem once again once we go onto the main straight, that I just can't defend if he just comes up behind me and goes for a move, because he will have so much more speed going up to the first chicane. And well, the problem also comes if I make a mistake like I do here. I did push the brakes a little bit too much or a little bit too long, too hard, and did get a little bit of a lockup. Nothing major, but it once again lost some time, and the guy behind is now 0.2 behind me. And at this point I'm like, okay, he's definitely going to overtake me. Let's see if we can maybe at least get the inside line for the fast right-hander, which then maybe lets us still fight for a good position to, well, go into this chicane. But the problem being that I am now on the worst line, in my opinion, for the chicane, and this was once again very close, and we did have contact behind, because I was definitely giving the other guy a lot of space, maybe too much, was quite slow entering the chicane, and the guy behind just tried to also sneak by there, and we did have a little bit of contact. Once again, I love the netcode from Le Mans Ultimate. It just worked. It was just, even though there was quite a bit of contact, it still was nothing. I felt it, but nothing happened. This is always just so great to see. But now the guy behind me is all over my back as well, and I'm kind of losing out to the guy in front, which I had been actually battling for a bit. So yeah, it's going to be difficult once again now. 1 second to the guy in front, and yeah, to the guy behind. Oh, and yeah, let's scrap that, because I made another mistake going or braking for Parabolica, and that was another lockup. And yeah, those things can happen. It's, for me, who, as I said, doesn't drive hypercars or prototypes all that much, I sometimes am not that confident on the brake, and then stuff like that happens where I do get lockups. And once again, slipstream battle, by the way. Look how easily the guy now is in front of me, and well, there's no way for me to still attack here into the chicane, so I'm just deciding at this point, just stick behind him, stay in striking distance, stay in the slipstream, and maybe get him on the next lap. And yeah, as I said before, this was the awesome thing about this race. Hypercars at this variant of Monza is just so much fun, because there's so much back and forth, and overtakes happen all the time, contrary to some other tracks where you don't have this mechanic or this like dynamic of a lot of slipstream battles because of the long straight. Well, on other tracks that are more technical, more narrow, or just don't have that long straights, you won't find this. And I think therefore this is a really good combination of car and track. And yeah, as I said before, I really did enjoy myself here. But at this point I am now losing out too much, and yeah, now we are now 0.7, 0.8 behind the guy in front. And you will see, while we do get a little bit of slipstream still, it is not all that much, and it's definitely not enough for me to actually catch up here, which is a little bit of a shame, of course, but it is what it is. I was already quite happy. I mean, we were P11 at some point or something, maybe 12, I'm not quite sure, but we were way farther in the front than I ever imagined we could. And a guy in front, oh boy, that was, I'm not quite sure what happened there, but well, he did lock up, that is for sure. But yeah, then he actually tried to still go instead of just going straight and then just taking a little bit of a line that cuts. He decided to try to go a little bit aggressively still into the chicane and then spun. But that means that we do have quite some breathing room, and we did now cut ahead to lap number 19. We did actually overtake two cars that just made mistakes and spun. By the way, mistakes, this was another mistake by me, a little bit of a lockup going into the chicane, and that means I decide here to then cut the track a little bit. It's the first cut that I had. 0.5 penalty is totally fine by me. I mean, we are almost at the end of the race. We did skip quite a bit, where I was just basically driving on my own. I don't want to bore you with nothing going on. I mean, this race has a bunch of stuff going on, and yeah, just me basically hot lapping isn't that interesting. I did kind of okay, had some moments, but nothing major. But well, now coming towards the end of the race, I also start to feel the tire wear. It's not crazy yet. You can see in the bottom left how the tires are, what their state is at the moment, but yeah, I can feel it, especially when braking, at least for some corners. And we only have like 2 laps left here. Yeah, should be 2 laps. So we are in P11, which, as I said, starting P21 in this lobby with such fast drivers, I really wasn't expecting to be anywhere near the top 10. If we can keep it here, that would be awesome, but even still, my main goal still at this point is to just keep it clean and keep the car in one piece and make it to the end of the race. And this is why at this point I am still trying to defend here, but I'm not going crazy. And at the end, because I see that I did brake kind of early and he did brake later and managed to keep it under control, I was like, okay, then I can just let him go and just take a good line to get a good exit so that I don't lose more time. That was a little bit of a moment there, going onto the gravel. Luckily it doesn't really phase these cars for some reason. And the guy in front made another mistake again. That means that we can catch up here. I think about going for a move here into Ascari, but once again think better of it. This is not really a good place to go side by side or try anything. So yeah, I don't want to end up like those guys that we saw in the beginning on the right side and just in the gravel trap. I just want to keep going. So yeah, if I can still keep behind this guy and keep close enough, we will have slipstream for the straight. He doesn't have that, so we will at least hopefully be able for this last lap to pull ahead once again. So yeah, one more lap, we are almost there. And as I said before, this was such a blast to drive. If you still have the chance, this should still be up at the time of posting this video, hopefully. Give this a shot. It's so much fun, it's ridiculous. I mean, you need to be careful, but yeah, it's super fun. By the way, careful, I should have been more careful here. I did brake too late and a little bit too hard as well, and get a big lockup and lose not only the position that I was trying to fight for, but another one, because I almost spun. My goal for this race of not spinning the car, at this point I'm not quite sure. I'll let you decide if I still have made that goal. It wasn't really a spin, but it was close. Maybe it was a half spin or something. But yeah, that lost me, well, the position that I was trying to get, and another one. That means we are P13 and it is the last lap. So at this point I'm like, okay, let's just keep it clean, try to just finish in this position. We are too far away to try anything anyway, so let's not lose another position by doing something stupid like outbraking myself for this last turn. So I brake early enough and I trail, I think, kind of nicely and get a good exit here. So yeah, that's P13 in this race at Monza. Super happy with this result. It was a blast driving this race, and if you enjoyed this one as well, then leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you want to see my thoughts on the other new car, the Mercedes AMG GT3, I also made a video on that. You will find it linked here on screen. Let me know in the comments as well if you were also brave enough to try this combo of car and track this week, and what your experiences were. I would really like to hear from you. But now all that's left for me is to thank you a lot for watching. I've been HG Racing, and I will hopefully see you in the next one.